Hello and welcome to Abundantly Minimal. My name is Sarah, and in today's video I want to give you a behind-the-scenes look at what's in my fridge, freezer, and pantry, as well as share what I eat in a week, lockdown edition. Last week I had a chance to share a minimalist kitchen tour video on the channel, which I will leave linked below if you haven't taken a look at it yet, but I specifically left out the fridge, freezer, and pantry since I figured it would be better to incorporate in a separate video. And while I don't regularly create food-related content on this channel, I thought this was a good topic for this week just because more people are cooking at home and we're trying to not go out as much as possible, limiting grocery trips. So I thought it could be interesting to share exactly what we are choosing to keep on hand during this time. We're going to start with the fridge tour. And as we do, I think what you'll see, the amount of food we have in our fridge right now is reduced what it normally is. And I think for the freezer and pantry, they're pretty similar to how it normally is, but just a little bit extra full. We definitely aren't people who are trying to hoard extra, food items. That's not really our style. We really do have plenty for, a long period of time. I believe at this point, the last time I went to the grocery store was very early April, like April 3rd. So it's been almost 2 weeks at the time that I'm filming this that we've, haven't been grocery shopping. And that's the intent, is to really minimize those trips as much as possible, help keep others safe. And that's why we are choosing to have a little bit extra, but nothing too crazy. Let's go ahead and take a look. Opening things up here. Top shelf, I'm going to go left to right. On the left, we have some homemade oat milk. It separates naturally, but you just give it a shake before you're ready to drink it or put it in something, and it's ready to go. We usually go back and forth between store-bought and homemade non-dairy milks. We like buying almond at the store, but when we're making it at home, I feel like almond is a little bit more labor intensive. I don't want to waste the time really having to strain much out of the milk. And so for me, hemp milk is the absolute easiest. Cashew milk is pretty easy as well, but cashews are a little more pricey. And then oat milk is something we recently have been doing, but I do keep it a lot thicker than maybe what you'd buy at the store. We do have some yogurt. The top one's almost empty, and then I have the Greek style unsweetened vanilla flavor, and then Jake has the plain unsweetened flavor. Those are good with berries and that kind of thing. We also have 3 jars with ground flax seeds, ground chia seeds, and hemp seeds. These are super easy to add in. I love adding ground flax seed in my oatmeal, ground chia seeds in my yogurt, and then hemp seeds can be great for the hemp milk or things like that. Going one shelf below that, we have some roasted carrots left over that we'll add in probably to an upcoming meal. We also have a cucumber that's partially been used but will be used again. I've been soaking some chickpeas. These were dried chickpeas, and I'll be cooking them in my Instant Pot later. We also do have some hummus cups here. These are something we really enjoy. Of course, unfortunately, it is a more wasteful item because they are individually packaged. We did decide to purchase these when we did a Costco trip about a month ago, just given the fact that since they're all individual, when you open a container of store-bought hummus, it usually doesn't last that long, and they're smaller servings, so we figured it made sense for these times, but obviously that's an area that environmentally we're not doing as good as we could be. As we look further down, we have a pack of tofu there, that's just from Trader Joe's, a pack of the Tofurkey plant-based turkey slices. Jake really enjoys those in his sandwiches. And then I have a jar of the Better Than Bouillon. It's basically, instead of using veggie broth or like the little veggie stock cubes, I find that this is the easiest to use and tastes great. All right, further down, we have a lonely looking loaf of bread on that one shelf. Like I said, we are a little bit less stocked now than we normally are, but that would be there. We often keep bread in the freezer too if we've got more than one loaf. And then down below in the tray, we've got some carrots, and there's also a head of celery that is not in the shot right now. We currently have nothing in the bottom one. We actually try not to use these little shelves too much, just because we have found sometimes we forget, especially if we did just do a big trip and there's a lot in the fridge, we find that we are more likely to waste food if we can't see it clearly. So, I mean, I know the carrots and celery are in that top drawer, but sadly I've wasted food on multiple occasions because I simply forgot that it was down there in the drawer, especially that bottom one because you can't really see it. So that's just been a switch we've made because we don't need the extra space. We don't buy too much that we need it. Now let's take a look at the fridge door. All right. So in the fridge door, we don't keep anything typically in that top little shelf. I guess a lot of people would put butter and things there. If we have some vegan butter, we'll put it there, but I know that I think it's really delicious and I know it's not good for me, so I try not to have it around too regularly. Basic condiments, we've got going from left to right, we have some barbecue sauce, some reduced sodium soy sauce, regular mustard, we've got some tahini. There's Dijon mustard right behind them. We've got some lime juice in a jar and ketchup. So we keep those there. That's pretty regular condiments for us. There are still some more further down. So on this next shelf here, we have some vegan fish sauce, which was something we tried. There's like these yummy tofu lettuce wraps at PF Chang's, and we were trying to figure out how to make them, and several of the copycat recipes called for it. So we did buy it with that purpose in mind. We haven't actually used it in other dishes, but I know it is common in like Thai cooking, for instance. In the jar in the back there is some ashwagandha. For a while, Jake was using that with his protein shakes. Not as much recently, so we've got a little left, but almost we'll be finishing it up. I don't think we're going to be rebuying it. We also have some pickles. I've got a little bit left. This is my homemade Parmesan cheese, obviously plant-based. It's based with nutritional yeast and cashews and a few other things. And then just a little bit of marinara sauce. On the bottom shelf there, we have some salsa, some maple syrup, and then there's also the white bottle on the right is just liquid vitamin. It was supposed to be helpful for sleep and help you fall asleep faster. For me, I found that it did not work, but I'm also a tough case because I have ridiculous amounts of energy. So it doesn't mean that it doesn't work for a lot of people. The reviews indicate that it works for a lot of people. Wasn't the case for me, but I will not be rebuying that after I finish that up. That wraps up the fridge. Now let's move on to the freezer. So starting on the top there, we've got our ice maker, and then we have some frozen berries above and below it. Right now we do have quite a few, so I just needed the extra space up top. Further down, there's a little bit less organization here, but we do have an amount that we still know what we have. I've got some frozen leftover rice in the back, some broccoli, pineapple. We've got some Mediterranean veggies. We've got some tempeh frozen there as well, some frozen butternut squash in the back, some more frozen tempeh. We've got some Trader Joe's meatless meatballs. Those are pretty tasty. Further down, we do have some tofu. Great tip is if you freeze your tofu and then you thaw it, it drains out more of the water more easily, and then it will better absorb the flavor of whatever seasoning or sauces you're using. There's some frozen banana, very little left, sadly, but I'd love that in smoothies. We also have some more, another container of that coconut rice, as well as some leftover frozen sweet potatoes. And I am not quite sure what is in the very bottom container there with the green lid. So, you know, that's not ideal, but we'll figure it out soon here. And on the very bottom, we have 2 loaves of frozen bread, Beyond Burger pack that's frozen, some frozen broccoli, and a set of some frozen pitas, some whole wheat pitas from Trader Joe's. Not much here in the freezer door. This is some frozen celery juice. And this is just like a frozen little curry type sauce that I can add in pretty quickly with, like, you know, rice and vegetables or whatever. So just have these. I can probably put that up here for convenient access. Moving on to the pantry, we're going to start at the bottom. So on the bottom shelf here, this is kind of where we store some of the extra bulk items that we have in jars further up. We've got oats. I'm actually just reusing this container of oats. I've just refilled it with bulk oats. We also have a few boxes of these spoonful cereal, which is pretty tasty. There is my stash of Lara bars, which are probably my favorite food ever that I'm eating on a regular basis. And then just some extra almonds, walnuts, dried cranberries. This would be sort of like our savory shelf, if you will. So we've got several different types of pasta. We do have some red lentil pasta here, as well as other whole wheat pastas. Since pasta is one of our main go-to meals, we definitely wanted to keep enough on hand. There's also some taco shells, falafel mix from Trader Joe's, some kind of convenience chana masala packs in the back that were from Costco. Soy curls I can't find in any grocery stores by us, so I'll order them in packages of 6 on Amazon. They're a really great protein substitute as well. We also have another salsa in reserve. Up here on this shelf is where we keep a lot of our bulk jars for bulk items, as well as extra spices for things. There's a big mix with spices here. Some items we did actually just purchase as a set blend. Some containers we refill, so for example, these are not rainbow peppercorns at this point anymore. We just bought the big container of peppercorns that we refill. Garlic we go through pretty quickly, so we just buy the big container and leave it in there. Some of the other ones, though, we transfer into smaller containers. So here's our cumin. We transfer that into smaller containers on our spice rack for convenience. And then we've got things like walnuts, quinoa, brown rice in the back, red lentils. The chickpeas are currently in the fridge because they were soaking. And then moving up here to the top, I do keep cans up here. So most of these, I think right now, are diced tomatoes. We also do have some coconut milk we keep on hand. That's helpful for different recipes. We have some extra chickpeas here. We definitely go through different phases where sometimes we have more canned options, other times we have more dried options. It just depends. I did not realize they sold it at Costco, so we had bought this, and then I saw it at Costco for that jumbo container for a cheaper price. So we have 2 at the moment. This is just my stevia, which I love in like sweet tea and shakes that I make. We've got nut butter along the side. We need to use this one up. That's been there a while. But cashew butter is the most delicious one to me. It's also the most expensive, so it's a special treat. We also have just peanut butter, a couple extra nut butters in the back, and we also keep supplements here as well. Finally, let's go up top. All right, and this top portion's a little bit less organized because it's less in reach. This particular shelf would be considered like the baking shelf. Unfortunately, at the moment, we're out of most like traditional whole wheat flour like we would normally have, but we've got a few extra sort of miscellaneous baking related items: cocoa powder, sugar, almond flour, to the big bag of rice that we couldn't fit anywhere else, so we just put it in this this place. We have baking powder, vanilla, baking soda, the basic stuff. Definitely could be more organized, but at the same time, it works, and it's all in one spot if I'm going to bake something. Further up, we have our reserve supply of Lara bars. I have found the most affordable way I can get them currently is through ordering them on Amazon, and we have these set up through the subscribe and save option, which also further reduces the price, which is cool. Extra vitamins up there, as well as some dates on the left. And then I can't reach the top shelf, and that's kind of where Jake keeps his salty snacks, chips, and those kind of things. I'm much more of a sweets person than a salty person, so besides the pretzel chips in the blue bag, I really have no interest in the other stuff that's up there. Now that we've taken a look at the fridge, freezer, and pantry, I want to get into some of the meals that I'm making throughout the week. Now, of course, whenever there's a what I eat in a day or what I eat in a week video, it doesn't mean that it's representative of everything that a person eats or that that's the way you should eat too. It just shows some examples of things that I'm eating during this time, especially considering reduced grocery shopping. And I've actually started filming some of these meals already before I did my tour, so there might be a few ingredients you don't recognize because we already ate them and used them up before we got to the tour, as well as there's going to be some meals that I make in the upcoming days, and we will probably do a grocery trip at some point, which could alter the meals that are eaten a little bit. That being said, let's get into it. All right, let's get started with some oatmeal. One of the meals that I make on a nearly daily basis. I personally have found that I actually have preferred quick oat style better and actually microwaving it as opposed to the stovetop, so that's just my personal preference. I found I didn't crave it every day if I wasn't making it this way. I'll always add frozen berries, mix that up. I'll use mostly water but then add a little bit of milk. Today I added some homemade cashew milk that I had left over, as well as ground flax seeds, cinnamon, walnuts, and I will top it with a little maple syrup. And this is just a really nicely balanced meal that I genuinely love having. Moving on here, let's go to some comfort food style. I don't know about you guys, but I have definitely been craving more comfort food over the last few weeks of quarantine, and this is a really simple mac and cheese style recipe. This is a vegan version, but of course you can make it any type of version you want. You simply cook the pasta in the milk. So I was just still using that cashew milk I had. You don't want it to be vanilla, you want it to be like unsweetened. And equal parts of whatever the milk is with the pasta, cook it at a low heat. I also chose to add broccoli in, and then half part of the whatever cheese of choice. I had some leftover Violife cheddar shreds, and I added in some garlic powder, salt, and pepper. Now, I was then out of cashew milk and we weren't going to the store yet, so I decided to make some homemade oat milk. Pretty low maintenance, but I also am a low maintenance person, so you definitely could make this a more involved process. For me, what it looks like was Minimalist Baker's recipe for it, just to help get the measurements right. 1 cup of oatmeal with 4 cups of water and 2 dates with a little vanilla and salt added. I did some very mild straining, but not too involved. In one jar, I have the more thinned out milk, as well as the thicker jar is perfect for pancakes, which is what we're seeing here now. To get started, this is buckwheat flour pancakes. However, that was just what was at the store, so I thought, I've never had buckwheat flour before, let's give it a try. And it's good. We didn't like it for biscuits as much, but I thought the pancakes were pretty yummy. Ideally, I'd probably do a 50-50 mix with like the traditional whole wheat flour. I also added a little bit of sugar, and then I'm adding a tiny bit of vinegar into the oat milk mixture to give it more of those buttermilk properties. And then also I add in baking powder to help them be really fluffy, or as fluffy as possible. Adding a little vanilla into the oat milk vinegar mixture. And then a little pinch of salt. And now it is time to combine them. I also added some blueberries and cinnamon. So letting the pancakes cook, it's always a big question mark with that first pancake. Will it, flip nicely? Fortunately, these have flipped really nicely. And this is a great portion for both Jake and I for just a chill, low-key weekend lunch. And then at this point when I was filming this, we did have a little vegan butter left. So because of that, I decided to use it up. It's definitely tasty. I try not to have it too often. Also a little bit of maple syrup, and there we have it. All right, so this meal is one of the most lazy meals, and not because I was having a lazy day overall, but I, quite frankly, was so excited about a project for my teacher business that I did not want to stop and make food. But I whipped something together really quick, started off with some cut onions, and then we had a Beyond Burger patty. Usually those are more so for Jake, but I decided that I would cook it and break it up into small pieces, sort of like a burrito bowl, very chill burrito bowl kind of thing. I added a bunch of different seasonings, such as taco seasoning, cumin, a lot of my basic spices as well, and just letting that cook in there with the onions. Also, to save time, I had a can of beans here, of pinto beans, added those in, as well as some diced tomatoes from a can, just for super quick, simple meal. We had these brown rice and quinoa packs from Costco. I think this was the last one. Just added that in there as well to help make it nice and filling. Like I said, sometimes you just have those days where you know you need to eat, but you just don't want to put much time in. Made sure that was all heated through. This definitely would have been delicious with like avocado or some sort of greens, but we didn't have any, so you just do what you can. All right, now this marks the turning point, because at this point we did go grocery shopping, and so the food got a little bit more exciting in my opinion. We were able to purchase some fresh veggies, which I had missed, and also previously you saw it. Those were some of the chickpeas. I had soaked them and cooked them, and then was baking them barbecue chickpeas, like roasted chickpeas, and we're making a kale Caesar salad. These recipes, as well as a few of the others I mentioned today, are in my cookbook. If you're interested, I will leave it linked below. I am making the Caesar dressing now, which is a tahini base. And one great tip is to actually massage the kale ahead of time with either salt acid or fat of some sort. So I personally use the salt, which is just regular salt, and then the acid is lime juice in our case right now. And that helps the kale be a lot more pleasant to eat. You just massage it a bit and then it's good to go. You can also use olive oil. I do try to limit the excess oil when I can. I also chopped up some cherry tomatoes and added some diced carrot as well. And we had just bought avocados too that were ripe, so I was very excited to throw that in there as well. Again, going grocery shopping, see it in a whole new light now that we have been limiting it so much. And my barbecue chickpeas were fresh from the oven, nice and toasted and delicious. Finally, here we have a tofu scramble. This is a great alternative that's sort of similar to, scrambled eggs. I don't think it necessarily tastes the same, but quite frankly, I was not really a fan of eggs anyway. So we're cooking up some diced onion and bell pepper. Great mini meal prep strategy would be if, let's say, you are cooking some veggies, but you don't need all the veggies, you don't need that whole portion. Cook them all at once anyway, and then set aside the ones that you don't need just yet. Right now you see me draining off the tofu a little bit, but I'm going to take some of those veggies out of the pan to use in a different recipe later on. I also added a little bit of soy sauce to the tofu. So veggies came along quite nice, putting them in a different container for a different recipe for later. Then we add in the tofu as well as our different seasonings. Definitely is a must to add that turmeric to give that nice golden color. Make sure though, if you do cook with turmeric, you also have black pepper in the dish so the health benefits can work synergistically. And we paired this tofu scramble with some tater tots on the side, which by no means are a health food, but they're a pretty fun item. And I find that if I'm having cravings of wanting to go out to eat or like get something salty or fried food oriented, baking up some tater tots, even a small portion, can help satisfy that craving. So, you gotta do what you gotta do in these quarantine times. Thank you so much for tuning in to this What I Eat in a Week and Fridge Pantry Tour video. It was a lot of fun for me to make as I have a big passion for cooking and don't always get to share it on this channel. So thank you for giving me the space to do that. If you'd like to check out any of our past videos, you can do so here or subscribe up here. We'll see you next time. Bye.